Or field anthropology. The field of anthropology has a lot to cover. All of human experience, biology, and evolution stretching back many millions of years. When Franz Boas, the father of Americanist anthropology, established the first anthropology degree program in the United States, he broke up the workload into four different but interconnected subfields. These four fields each have a primary focus, but share the same lenses of anthropology, and in research often overlap. These subfields are archaeology, the study of cultures past. In Europe, archaeology is an older occupation, and as an academic pursuit is often a branch of the humanities, such as history or classics, and is not part of a separate anthropology department like in the United States. Cultural anthropology is the study of cultures present or contemporary to the researcher. And linguistic anthropology is the study of human language and its relationship to culture and society. Chances are good you've heard of archaeology before. It's a common theme in adventure films, TV shows, and other popular culture. They're always in the action genre, filled with excitement, bad guys, chase scenes, supernatural beings, rich treasures, and ancient curses. However, I am sorry to report that archaeology isn't really anything like that. There's no vine swinging, acrobatics, or ancient curses. Under ordinary circumstances in the modern era, there are no explosives, gunfights, or car chases. Many of the films about archaeologists that behaved like this are loosely based on what excavating artifacts was before the 20th century, when it fell under the umbrella of anthropology here in the United States with a scientific perspective. Before then, the objective of excavation was to find treasures that could be sold to museums and private collectors. These antiquarians, as we call them, weren't as interested in learning about ancient people as they were in acquiring rare and precious arts and artifacts, often made from rare materials. They often discarded or destroyed things that weren't obviously valuable. And much of what today's archaeologists would consider the most important finds, evidence of the daily lives of people. What is left behind when those people are gone is what we call material remains. These are anything made by humans, used by humans, or which demonstrates some activity or behavior of humans. The things that are left, even the garbage, tells us a lot about how they lived. Human biological remains may also be left behind, and these can also tell us a lot about a person's life. Archaeology often overlaps with biological anthropology. What you see here is called a midden, M-I-D-D-E-N, which is a fancy term for a trash pit. This midden was excavated behind the Hessian barracks in Maryland, where German and Russian prisoners were kept during the American Revolutionary War. The pit contained 500 cow and pig bones discarded from food production. They were cracked in a way that suggests they were used in soups rather than gnawed on as steaks or had the meat cut from them. This tells us something about how the prisoners were treated. Archaeology generally focuses on peoples who have been gone for 50 or more years, but there are exceptions. There's a specialty area of archaeology called garbology, the study of garbage, that investigates current peoples by examining their garbage, what they throw out, what foods are eaten, what resources are discarded, how long people hold onto things before deciding that they are appropriate for throwing away, etc. But most archaeology investigates the material remains of cultures and societies that existed most recently as 50 years to many thousands of years ago. This is what archaeology today looks like, at least when in the field. This is the Neolithic site of Ketelhoyuk, which is located in modern Turkey. This was, for its time, a densely populated mud brick settlement active between 9,400 years ago and 7,500 years ago, when human societies first developed agriculture on the continents of Asia and Europe. This site was first excavated in 1961 and has been periodically excavated up to the present day, as shown in this image. Here we see several archaeologists, each working in a carefully delineated pit, gently removing one layer of earth at a time to expose bits of broken pottery or other material remains left behind. This photo is fairly typical of the way archaeologists today do their work. They are meticulously removing layers of dirt from specific areas as they look for clues of human occupation, with tiny trowels and clean paintbrushes to gently move away layers of dirt. A lot has been learned from this site about what life was like in a Neolithic settlement, how it changed over time to adopt and adapt new agricultural techniques, its trading partners, conflict, and population growth. They've found artifacts that tell us about their technologies through craft and tool production, evidence of ritual behaviors, granary technologies, and the varieties of agricultural products grown and raised over 2,000 years. This is considered prehistoric archaeology because this settlement existed at a time prior to the local development of writing. And therefore, all of what we know is based on what we can find in the archaeological record and interpret. For sites that are a little more recent, we may have access to official records or other archival material, such as is the case with Seneca Village, a small 19th century town of a few hundred people that was located in what is today Central Park. It was founded in 1825 by African Americans and German and Irish immigrants, and is today a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was one of the first places in the country where African Americans were allowed to own property. And in Seneca Village, some 2/3 of the homes were owned by African American families. In 1855, the city of New York purchased the land from all of the homeowners, raised the buildings, and built Central Park over it. Seneca Village is the area highlighted in red in the Central Park plan that you see here. Seneca Village was largely forgotten until it was rediscovered by archaeologists in the 1990s. This is considered historic archaeology because in addition to what we find, we have written records to supplement our investigations. For Seneca Village, we had official government property deeds, registered lot arrangements, location of businesses and their owners, etc. For example, we know that an African American man named Andrew Williams was the first person to buy one of the Seneca Village lots when they became available in 1825. He sold it to the New York Central Park Conservancy in 1855. When the city of New York bought it from him, they did so for 6 times what he paid for it. We know that the village had several churches, one of which had a small school in its basement. They also had a dedicated school for African American children only. Pictured here are Albro and Mary Joseph Lyons, who ran a boarding house for Black sailors that doubled as a stop on the Underground Railroad. But most of what we learn about daily life comes from the material remains at the site itself. There was an Irish butcher, and from the bones in his trash, we know what kinds of foods he sold, which houses that likely bought from him, and how those people were distributed among the other members of the community. We have broken pieces of pottery and ceramic that help us understand what kind of housewares they made for themselves and what was purchased from merchants outside the village. We have found clay pipes, tea kettles, beer bottles, children's shoes, cooking pans, and all kinds of things that fill in a picture of what life was like in a New York City village where African Americans and Western European immigrants lived in relative peace and equality for several decades. Whereas archaeology is focused on understanding past cultural groups through their material remains, biological anthropology focuses on understanding human biology through human remains, both fossilized and more recent. Forensic anthropology is a specialty area of biological anthropology that focuses on the identification of humans for legal purposes, generally those who died less than 50 years ago. The image you see here, however, is a reconstruction of the fossilized skull of Ardipithecus ramidus, who lived in what is today Ethiopia in Africa about 4.5 million years ago. The discovery of this human ancestor was a significant find as it pushed back the timeline for bipedal ancestors nearly 500,000 years. One of the best known fossils of this species is affectionately known as Artie, and she even has her own documentary on the Discovery Channel. This species hasn't been found in any association with stone tools, and neither does any other evidence, like tooth wear pattern or cut bones, indicate that they had created that technology yet. On the other hand, the skull on the left is Homo heidelbergensis, a transitional species of human from between the first members of genus Homo and more modern humans, who emerged around 600,000 years ago. There is significant evidence that the species invented the advanced Mousterian stone tools that could be made into spears and very fine blades, such as the one shown at the right. Compare this small Mousterian tool with the Acheulean hand axe on the left. Only about 2/3 of it might fit in your hand. It has a rounded heel for grasping and a sharp edge for cutting, chopping, and scraping. It's a multi-purpose tool, one of the oldest, most common, and longest used distinct stone tools made by humans. We find it at sites as long ago as 2 million years ago, and at least as recently as 130,000 years ago. The making of stone tools requires teaching, environmental knowledge, and a lot of practice. So, for nearly 2 million years, people had been teaching younger people the same techniques and processes to produce this kind of tool that changed very little in that long period of time. Humans are the newest members of the primate order of mammals who are more like us than any other animal on Earth. One of the focus areas of biological anthropology is primatology, which studies living primate biology and behavior. Pictured here is a tarsier, which is a small nocturnal primate that only eats animals, like the grasshopper dinner it's munching on, or the occasional baby lizard. A faunivorous diet is almost unheard of among primates, and only humans also rely on animal protein as part of their regular diet. The rest of the primates, including the other great apes, are almost exclusively plant eaters, including fruits. Primatologists observe and investigate living primates so that we may better understand our biological distinctiveness as well as our commonalities.